Hello mga ka-alien! Welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Sir DL and welcome to The Aliens Vlog. By the way po pala, maraming salamat po sa lahat ng mga tumatangkilik sa aking mga video, sa mga nagko-comment, sa mga feedbacks. Those feedbacks and comments encourage me to do some more videos, and I hope the videos that I'm uploading on my YouTube channel are helping you a lot. Maraming salamat po. Keep on subscribing, keep on sharing the videos. I hope the videos are helping you and your students. Maraming salamat po. For today, we will be having another math tutorial. Watch this. Okay, I know all of you are ready. Let's start. For today, let's talk about special products. Before we proceed, let's state the objectives of this study or of this lesson. Number 1, discuss special products. Number 2, identify the different special products. Number 3, find the products of the given terms. And number 4, explain the importance of special products. Before we start our main lesson, I would like to give an encouragement or a reminder. Sabi po dito, some people succeed because they are destined, but most because they are determined. Sabi nga po dun sa video yung in-upload ko po recently, if you are determined, no one will stop you. Okay, let's start. I know all of you are excited, so let's start our lesson. The first one, square of a binomial. How do we find the product of a square of a binomial? Here are the following steps to follow. Number 1, based on the example, we have the quantity of a plus b squared, wherein a is our first term and b will be our last term. So we have here square the first term. That would be squaring our first term. Next, 2 times the product of the first and last term. We have the first and last. It says 2 times the product of the first and last term. Third, square the last term. That could be squaring the last term. That's the next process. And the last process will be simplify. What is a squared? Syempre, a squared pa din. So 2 times a times b, that is 2ab. Then, square the last term, b squared. That could be our final answer. It's very easy, right? Just simply follow the steps. Next, we have here another example, the quantity of 2x plus 3y squared, where 2x will be our first term and 3y will be our second term. Let's remember, or let's try to understand again the following steps. The first one, square the first term. That could be 2x will be our first term and 3y will be our last term. Next, 2 times the product of the first and last term. 2 times the product of the first term and the last term. The first term and the last term. Next, square the last term. Square the last term. Again, square the first term. 2 times the first and second term. Square the last term. Let's now try to simplify. What is the square of 2x? That could be 4x squared. What is 2 times 2x plus 3y? 2 times 2, that's 4. Times 3, that's 12, then xy. xy, as simple as that. Next, square the last term. That is 3 times 3, 9. Y squared. That could be our final answer. Very easy. Just simply follow the steps. Let's have another example here, and I would like you to understand or try to solve on your own. So we have the quantity of 3x minus 4y. Just simply follow the steps. The first step, I hope you are writing on your own paper as well and try to solve this one. Square the first term. What will be our first term? 3x minus 4y. So 3x will be our first term and negative 4y will be our second term. Square the first term. Next, instruction. 2 times the product of the first and last term. The product of the first and last term. 2 times the product of the first and last term. First term will be 3x. Last term will be negative 4y. Next, square the last term. Our last term will be negative 4y. Square the last term. Will you try to answer? Will you try to simplify? What will be the square of 3x? The answer will be 9x squared. Very good. I know you got the correct answer. So what is 2 times 3? That's 6. 2 times 3, that's 6, times negative 4, that's negative 24, xy. That's our next term. What is the square of negative 4y? That is 16y. Very good. So our final answer will be 9x squared minus 24xy plus 16y squared. Just simply follow the steps on the squaring of a binomial. First one, square the first term. Second one, 2 times the product of the first and last term. The third one, square the last term, and the last one will be simplified. I hope you followed. Let's move on the next example. Or the next one, sum and difference of two terms. Try to observe the following example. We have here a plus b, a minus b. We will be applying sum and difference of two squares if we have like this. As you can see, a, the same, b, negative b, positive, negative. Let's try to solve this one. Let's try to follow the steps. First one, multiply both first term. That's the first term of each quantity. So a times a squared. Have you followed? I hope so. Then next, put minus sign. We put minus sign. And the last step will be multiply both last term. We have last term. So that is the final answer. Very easy. That's the shortcut. We have a times a squared, b times negative b squared. Have you followed? So, ina-apply po natin ang sum and difference of two squares kung meron po tayong dalawang quantity and we have almost the same but the last term will be positive and negative. Doon po natin ina-apply ang sum and difference of two squares. Let's have another example. We have here, same po sila, 2x and 2x, 3y, negative 3y. So, let's try to follow the steps. Multiply both first term. That is 2x times 2x, 4x squared. The next, put minus sign. And the last step will be multiply both last term. 3y times negative 3y, that is 9y squared. Very good. Next example, 4a plus 2y times 4a minus 2y. I would like you to solve on your own as well. Try to solve this one. Follow the steps. The first one, multiply both first term. That is 4a times 4a. That is 16a squared. Very good. I hope you got it. Next step, put minus sign. We put minus sign. On the third step, multiply both last term. We have 2y times negative 2y. That is 4y squared. As simple as that. That is sum and difference of two squares. I hope you got it. Let's move on the next one. The next one, square of a trinomial. That could be, we have an example here, the quantity of a plus b plus c squared, where a will be our first term, b will be our second term, and c will be the last term or the third term. What are the steps to follow? The first one, square the first term. The first term is a, square the first term. Square the second term, that's b. Square the last term, that would be c. Next step, 2 times the first and second term. 2 times the first and second term. 2 times the first and last term. 2 times the first and last term. And the last one, 2 times the second and the last term. 2 times the second and the last term. Let's now simplify. That is a squared, b squared, c squared, 2 times a times b, that is 2ab, 2 times a times c, 2ac, 2 times b times c, that's 2bc. That's as simple as that, okay? That is square of a trinomial. Let's have another example here. The quantity of 2a plus 3b plus 4c squared, where 2a is our first term, 3b will be our second term, and 4c will be the last term. Let's try to follow the steps. First one, square the first term. 2a will be the first term. Square the second term. 3b will be our second term. Square the last term. 4c will be our last term. Next, 2 times the first and the second term. 2 times the first and the second term. 2 times the first and the last term. Next, 2 times the second and the last term. 2 times the second and the last term. And the last one will be simplifying. Let's simplify. What is the square of 2a? 2 times 2, 4, then a squared. What is the square of 3b? That's 9b squared. Very good. What will be the square of 4c? 4 times 4, 16, then c squared. Next, 2 times 2, 4. 2 times 2, 4 times 3, that's 12. Then we have AB. 12AB. Next, 2 times 2, that's 4. Times 4, 16, AC. Next, 2 times 3, that is 6. Times 4, 24 BC. That will be our final answer on the given example. Have you followed? I hope so. Let's move on the next example. The quantity of 3x minus y plus 2z, where 3x will be our first term, negative y will be the second term, and 2z will be the last term. Steps to follow. First one, square the first term. Square the first term, 3x, square 3x. Next one, square the second term, negative y. Square the last term, that's 2z, square the last term. 2 times the first and the second term. 2 times the first and the second term. First and second term. Then 2 times the first and the last term. 2 times the first and the last term. And the last one, 2 times the second and the last term. Second and last term. Let's now try to simplify. 3x squared, that could be 9x squared. The quantity of 3x squared, that could be 9x squared. What is negative y times negative y? That's positive y. The square of 2z, that is 4z squared. Next one, 2 times 3, that's 6 times negative 1, negative 6xy. 2 times 3, 6 times 2, 12 xz. xz, very good. 2 times negative 1, negative 2 times 2, negative 4yz. That will be our final answer. I hope you understood. Let's go on the next special product. The next one, cube of a binomial. So we have example here, the cube of the quantity of a plus b, or the quantity of a plus b cube. What are the steps to follow? First one, cube the first term. As we can see, a will be our first term and b is our second term. The first step, cube the first term. Next step, 3 times the square of the first term times the last term. So 3 times the square of the first term times the last term. 3 times the square of the first term times the last term. Next, 3 times the first term times the square of the last term. 3 times the first term and the square of the last term. 3 times the first term and the square of the last term. Next one, cube the last term will be, b is our last term, so cube the last term. Then we can now simplify. A cube, syempre a cube. Then a squared times 3 times b, that is 3a squared b. So b squared times a, that is ab squared times 3, 3ab squared, then b cubed. I hope you followed that one. Let's try to have another example in order for us to follow it, in order for you to understand it more. So the quantity of 2a plus 3b cubed, or the cube of 2a plus 3b. Steps to follow, cube the first term. 2a will be our first term and 3b is our second term. Cube the first term. 3 times the square of the first term times the last term. 3 times the square of the first term times the last term. 3 times the first term times the square of the last term. 3 times the first term and the square of the last term. Then, cube the last term. That is, cube the last term. Then we can now simplify. What is the cube of 2a? That is 2 times 2 times 2. That is 8. 8a cubed. So on this part, we will be starting solving on this part because we have squared. We will be following PEMDAS, exponent before the other operations. So 2 times 2, that's 4, times 3, that's 12, times 3, 36, a squared b. Okay, again, 2 squared, that is 4, times 3, that's 12, times 3, that's 36, then a squared. Next, we will be starting from this part. The square of 3, or 3 squared is 9, then we have b squared here. Square of 9 times 2, that's 18, times 3, 54. Follow a, then we have b squared. Next, cube of the last term, 3 times 3 times 3. We have 3 times 3 times 3, that's 27, b cubed. As simple as that. I hope you followed. So let's have another example in order for us to follow it more. So we have the cube of the quantity of x minus 2y, where x is our first term and negative 2y will be our second term or the last term. Let's try to follow the steps. Cube the first term. Cube the first term. Next, 3 times the square of the first term times the last term. 3 times the square of the first term and times the last term. Next, 3 times the first term times the square of the last term. 3 times the first term and the square of the last term. Next, cube the last term. Cube the last term. Okay? Then, we can now simplify. As simple as that. What is x cubed? Syempre, x cubed. So, on this part, we have x squared times 3, 3x squared times negative 2y, that is negative 6x squared y. 3 times negative 2, that is 6. So we have x squared times y, x squared y. On this part, we will be starting from the exponent or from solving this one. Square of negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 2, that's 4 times y. Y squared because we have squared here. Again, negative 2 times negative 2, 4 y squared times x. 4 xy squared times 3, that is 12xy squared. Next, cube the last term, that is negative 2 times negative 2, that's positive 4 times negative 2, negative 8 y cubed. Negative 8 y cubed. I hope you understood. Let's try to go on the next and the last special product. The last one, the product of a binomial and trinomial. We have binomial and trinomial. This special product is applicable if the first term of the trinomial is the square of the first term of the binomial. Again, the first term of the trinomial is the square of the first term of the binomial. Next, the last term of the trinomial is the square of the last term of the binomial. And the second term of the trinomial is the product of the first and the last term of the binomial. Kaya po AB. But if this one is positive, this one must be negative for this one to be applicable. If this one is negative, this must be positive. Let's try to solve this one. This one is very easy. Let's try to follow the steps. The first one, multiply both first term. First term times first term, a times a squared, that is a cubed. Next one, we put plus or minus sign depending on this part. If this one is negative, we put negative on this part. If this one is positive, we put positive. And the last one, multiply both last term. So b times b squared, that could be b cubed. Again, multiply both first term, a times a squared, that's a cubed. Put plus or minus sign, it depends on this part. If this one is positive, then it's positive. If this one is negative, then negative. Then multiply both last term. Multiply both last term. B times b squared, b cubed. Let's try to have another example. So we have here 2 minus 3b multiplied by the quantity of 4a squared plus 6ab plus 9b squared. Let's try to follow the instruction. Multiply both first term. 2a times 4a squared, that could be 8a cubed. Very good. Then next, put plus or minus sign. This one is minus, that's why we put minus sign on this part. And the last step will be multiply both last term. Negative 3b times 9b squared, that would be negative 3 times 9, that's 27, times b squared, b cubed, that could be negative 27b cubed. Okay, the last example for today. Given the quantity of 3x plus 4y times the quantity of 9x squared minus 12xy plus 16y squared. Let's try to follow the steps. The first one, multiply both first term. 3x times 9x squared. 3 times 9, 27. X times x squared, that could be 27x cubed. Put plus or minus sign based on this part. So that's positive or plus. And the last will be multiply both last term. 4y times 16y squared, that could be 64y cubed. As simple as that. Again, we have the following steps. Multiply both first term, put plus minus sign, and multiply both last term. That could be product of a binomial and trinomial. Okay, that ends our discussion. Before I end this video, I would like to leave another quotation. Success demands 3 things: sacrifice, hard work, and determination. In order for you to be successful, you need to sacrifice, you need to work hard, and you need to be determined. I hope you learned something today on this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe on my YouTube channel for more updates. Subscribe and ring the bell. Thank you for watching. This is Sir DL. God bless you all.